So now we're going to have a presentation from Zlatko. He's the youth leader, youth director at the Trans-European Division. He has done all sorts of things in his past before coming to the division. He served in Croatia, where he grew up, as a pastor, a teacher, a youth director, and the president before coming to the Trans-European Division. He really enjoys opening the Bible with young people and helping them to discover God and things that are relevant to their lives. And he is married and he has 3 beautiful children and a beautiful wife. So we're very glad that Zlatko is taking a little bit of time away from his beautiful family to come and share with our family here on how to facilitate a group discussion with young people who sometimes are a little hard to stimulate to talk. So thank you, Zlatko, for sharing with us tonight.
Yes, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Helgi, for excellent presentation. Thank you all who are here with your presence and with your comments, and you are welcome to ask any question during the meeting, and Karen will probably at the end be able to facilitate your questions or your comments. Yes, the topic that I'm about to talk, it's about facilitating a group discussion. It's a big topic, and these are only few tips about how to do it, far away from being really comprehensive. I'm starting with Youth Alive. These webinars are prepared specifically for Youth Alive leaders, but all other leaders who are working in group environments. But particularly with Youth Alive program or Youth Alive initiative, friendship groups are very important. So in the handbook, you will find that Youth Alive, that friendship groups are the most important activity in the program of Youth Alive. And in friendship groups are vital in order to provide interaction and intimacy for participants. So friendship groups are important in Youth Alive, probably the most important aspect of helping young people to have a healthy life and be resilient against at-risk behaviors. And group discussion is one very important aspect of friendship groups. It's not the only important aspect, because other aspects are also fun activities, friendship, serving together, but discussion on real life issues, on practical youth issues, is very important aspect of Youth Alive program. Why is a group discussion important in general and in working with young people and through Youth Alive? First, it gives everyone involved the voice. And for many people, just to have opportunity to express themselves, it gives them value. It says to them they are important, and that's very important for growth, for good growth. It allows also for a variety of ideas to be expressed and discussed, and a group is much more likely to come to good conclusions if a mix of ideas is on the table than if only one idea or only one person contributes. Further, it leads to group ownership. If groups come through discussion to some conclusions or to some agreement, they're much more likely that they will feel part of this, and whatever conclusion is there, if they came together to this conclusion, it's much more likely that they will follow that than if it comes only from one person. Also, group discussion can open communication channels among people who might not communicate in any other ways. So there are people that come, that they maybe don't have so many things together, they belong to different backgrounds, but when they are in a small group, when they discuss, they can start to communicate. And this communication can grow. And as communication is growing, the potential for connectedness and mutual support is also growing. And as a member of the group where this discussion is happening, you start feeling you are not alone. You belong somewhere. You hear experiences of other people and not only of one person. You become able to deal with your character deficit, with your risk behaviors because of safe spiritual environment. You find encouragement while dealing with your life struggles. So this place, because there is discussion, there is possibility for this place to become your second family. And I think this is like a basic thought that somehow I want to share during this presentation. That discussion is not just for the content and for discussion. It's here for becoming a second family, for becoming a support to each other. And the topic says facilitating group discussion. This word, facilitating, it's important because what is the role of the leader? If we can call it leader of a group discussion. We can have different leadership styles. There are people who are naturally more dominating. They like to dominate the group. And there are those who are not leading almost anywhere when they need to lead. So they have different personality, different leadership skill. But good group leaders for good group discussion are mainly facilitators. Their main concern is supporting and maintaining the process, not dominating discussion, not sermonizing, just supporting, maintaining the process. Their role is to cultivate a good environment, good connection between the members of the group. They cannot make people grow. They can just cultivate good environment for this growth to happen. So this is the role of leaders, to set rules, to make sure that everyone participates, that no one dominates, that people respect each other, to encourage the development and expressions of all ideas, including odd ideas. And so the main role is to facilitate the process, to ask good questions, to wisely leading through the discussion, and to make sure that the environment of care and safe environment is there. So the role of the leader is not to force the conclusions or answers. Sometimes we start the discussion, and then I found myself even this weekend in the discussion where the leader asks the question, and then we don't have the answer, and then immediately either leader or any other adult answers the questions. And if we do that, if we jump in with right answers before young people starts to discussing, we kill the discussion. So we should, the leaders should allow students to grapple with hard questions on their own. And the role of the leader is just to lead this process, not to force conclusions, not to speak too much. So key concepts that I want to share in next 30 minutes are the following. It's in order to have effective, good discussion, the leaders are here to cultivate safe environment, to learn the art of good questions, to share real life stories, and to show personal care. And I will briefly go through these four main areas, probably spending more time on first two. So I think that it's very important to think about the environment more than about the content. Sometimes we feel that discussion will not be good if we don't bring good content. But more important is environment than the content. Content is important, and we will talk about this as well. And what kind of environment we are talking about? I think that Helgi had excellent presentation where he mentioned many good things. I would maybe summarize with following 5 words: environment that is friendly, safe, spiritual, comfortable, and inclusive. We can say many other things. Just a little bit about each one of these. So what does it mean, friendly environment? This is an environment where people in the group, they develop deeper levels of friendship. Somebody said that there are 7 levels of relationships. The first one is greeting each other. Second one is exchanging the facts. Third one is sharing personal opinions. And you see, as we go more deeply, it's more vulnerable, because it's easy to say to somebody hello, or to exchange facts and say, oh, the weather today was nice, or it was not nice. Did you see the nice rainbow today? it's not vulnerable. You're not talking about yourself. You're talking about facts and outside world. When you come to the third, sharing your personal opinions, you're already sharing something from you. But then to go even more deeply, to share personal feelings. And I think that our role should be to develop inside of the group, at least that they come as a group to the fourth level, sharing personal feelings. And if possible, something from admitting personal failures, at least to some members of the group, if not in front of others. So friendly environment means not shallow friendship. It means deep level of friendships. Secondly, safe environment. Fuller Youth Institute, the leaders there, they said once young people who have safe relationships in which they share their questions and struggles tend to have stronger faith, to carry that faith into young adulthood and to share their faith with others more often. When articulated, young people's questions open up exploration of both doubt and faith. In other words, these authors, they say the safe environment is an environment where young people can be free to share their questions and struggles without being judged, without being ridiculed. It's okay to have any questions. And when you share your question, when you share even your doubt, when you express that you don't believe something, that's already the way that can open up the exploration, not only of doubt, but also faith. Just the fact that you are in the environment where you can safely share. I heard about one young person. He came to one church environment where there were a lot of young people, and these young people were active. And he came as a teenager because his mom started to go to church and his father was atheist and scientist. So he had many scientist questions about creation, about religion, all these things. And he told me later that whenever he asked any question or to show the sign of doubt, he was immediately, maybe not attacked, but he felt like he's not free in this group to ask these kind of questions. How you can have these questions? So he felt from young people not accepted to share these questions. And he never managed to grow his faith, he said, because of the environment where he felt it's not okay to ask some questions. So safe environment, one aspect of safe environment is to be allowed to be what you are and to be allowed to share your struggles and share your questions without being judged, without being ridiculed, without being stopped in doing this. And there are many other aspects. So group environment has many elements. It's about the friendship that happens inside of group, but even more outside of the group. It's about safe environment. It's about ground rules. It's important to have to agree on ground rules, on the rules how we will have discussion. For example, everyone should treat everyone with respect. We don't want here to hear name callings, emotional outbursts, accusations, arguments directed to people. We only want ideas and opinions. Disagreement should be respectful. Then another rule can be don't interrupt. Listen to the whole of others' thoughts. With especially younger, with teens, sometimes it's good idea to have an object that represents which person is on the floor. So maybe it can be a toy, and this toy can be passed as people share. Only the person with the toy or with the object is allowed to talk. Others are supposed to listen. But whatever rule, whatever way we find, it's important to have the role about not interrupting each other, respecting the group's time, considering all comments serious, not to be defensive if someone disagrees with you, and keep everything confidential. So there are different ground rules that will help a group environment to be healthy and good. Then the next point is environment. It's important to be spiritual environment, because our friendship can be shallow and secular and selfish. It's not enough just to have friendship. It's not enough just to have a discussion. It's important, but it's important also to have a spiritual environment. And from group to group, depending on who is in the group, the way how it will be spiritual is different. But what I would say, our focus should be on God and his wonderful character. And if people are still not there to talk about God and his character, let us talk about the good values that are connected to the God that we believe. Maybe we don't talk about this God first, but we talk about good values and we talk about hope. And then later we can connect this with the beautiful God. Also, we can help people in the group to love the Bible and biblical principles. And also the role of prayer. It's very important. For many groups, the prayer will become crucial element if you have people who are at the level where they are open for prayer. But the prayer should be very important aspect. If not of the group discussion, then we can personally as leaders pray for people who are there. Maybe praying for them individually when we follow up, if people are not at the level of prayer. But I would encourage that every environment is spiritual, that there is hope, that there are good values, and that we talk about God's character, about Bible, and that we pray for each other. It's not only about having nice social time, it's about growing in faith. Next element of group environment is comfortable space, maybe informal space, food being served and eating and drinking often break down barriers among the people. So comfortable space and environment. And then I think that very important is to encourage participation and even disagreement. There are different ways how we can encourage participation, even from starting with the process of choosing the topics and finding good materials related to the topic. If we involve young people in choosing the topics, they're already participating. And the best experience that I had in a group discussion with young people was at the beginning of my pastoral ministry, when there was a group of young people. They wanted to go more deeply to some topics, and first they started to choose topics, and then when we chose the topics, we would come to this and say, next time you bring about this topic materials that you read, something that you read that you think it would be good for others to read. So then everybody participated, but sharing resources. And then a week after people brought resources, there was discussion on the resources. For me, that was the best group, because they participated in choosing the topics, they participated in bringing materials, and then when the topic came, they wanted to be involved because they were involved in choosing the topics. And there are many things how to help students and encourage them to talk. Use different ways of how they can respond and how they can talk. Without forcing them to respond, but encourage them to respond and find different ways how they can respond. Maybe they can write them and their answer. Maybe they can write even anonymously. They can respond to the questionnaire. They can draw something. They can respond through their art. There are different ways because of different personalities, because some people are introverts and they will not, they are afraid, they are shy to talk openly, but we have to find the ways how to involve them as well. And we should encourage them with our body language, smiling when they are talking, looking towards them, all of them, but maybe to people who maybe you would like to encourage them, but to talk about. So to encourage participation and disagreement. Another tip for how to make a group environment, I would say, it's to decentralize to get students talking to one another, not to the leader. Sometimes discussion is happening between the leader, facilitator, and individual who is responding, and then back to the leader, and then to another, next person. More we manage to help them talking to one another, the environment and participation will be better. So we can do this in different ways. We can use rotating chair format in which students call on each other instead of you calling on them. So students choose who will answer the next one. Then we are not trying to respond to every student comment as a facilitator. Instead, we ask others in a group what they think about what has just been said. So we always encourage them to talk to each other. We sometimes even turn maybe our back and start to write on the whiteboard their comments and just listen what they talk and somehow say, I'm not important here. It's important what you are talking to each other, and I want to write what you are, what are your comments, what is your discussion. So this is about decentralizing. And related to that is also to share the authority of leadership, encouraging youth facilitators, their presentations, encouraging them to lead discussion or part of the discussion, to prepare discussion questions, to prepare materials, to come with some assignments and with some contributions, and so that they can be not only responding to your questions, but also giving ideas and sharing and leading in these group discussions. So that was basically about environment. We can talk much more, but environment which is inclusive, friendly, safe, which is spiritual environment. The next thing that we talked about is let us learn the art of good questions. Good questions are very important for good discussion. Much more important than what we are to say, because we are facilitators. There is a time when we can be presenters, when we can talk, when we can teach, but group discussion is time for questions and discussion. I would say we start with a good icebreaker. So it's not so much about the question, it's about something that will provoke their interest and get their attention. It can be a live situation, case study, it can be short introductory video, it could be an illustration from the live, it can be activity or game, anything that will get them comfortable, get them maybe connected with the topic, what will trigger their attention, their interest, and provoke and get their attention. Then what is very important, good questions are open-minded questions of higher order. What does it mean? First, what are open-ended questions? So these are questions that have more than one correct answer. Cannot be answered with a simple yes or no or one correct answer. So it's open-ended. They require respondent to elaborate on their points. There are many ways how you can respond to open-ended questions. Close-ended questions, there is only one correct answer that can be answered with yes or no, or with information, or with name, or fact, or something like this. Good questions are open-ended questions. Secondly, good questions are higher order questions, not lower order questions. In order to explain this, I will share with you so-called Bloom's taxonomy, known in education. So there are different kinds of questions, and remembering, understanding. This is more about memorizing, identifying, locating, making sense out of something. This is low-level questions. When we are asking them to remember or just to say that they understand what has just been shared. As we are going up, it's more upper-level questions. Applying for many still belongs to low-level question, but it's a little bit more. It's applying to new situation. And then what are really high-order questions higher order questions, they involve logical thinking, analyzing, evaluating, creating something new. So I think it's very, very important to think how many questions we have about higher levels and how many questions are low level. All questions have their role, because in some group, if we ask too complicated questions, we will not have discussion. But if we ask too simple questions, they will not discuss, or we will not have a growth. So just to repeat again, we should use open-ended questions of higher order. And then what's interesting with these questions is that these questions usually take much longer time to go through these questions. And I usually like to prepare a list of good initial questions. I say initial questions because these are not the only questions that will come. But because these are open-ended questions of higher level, then it cannot be too many. I usually have 4 questions, 3, 4, 5 main initial questions to prepare in advance. I think that's very important, and to think them about logically how they flow from one question to another question. But what happens usually with the first question? Right answers kill discussion, or expectation to give right answer or to get right answer. This usually kills this discussion. Participants, young people especially, after they hear the question, or they don't understand the question, or they are very concerned with giving the right answer, they don't want to look dumb, stupid, to have the wrong answer. So usually there is no discussion after the first question, especially with young people. So what to do? If we rely only on our initial questions to get conversation going, then maybe after 2-3 seconds of no response, we will start responding to the question, and which is not good. So I think it's very important to ask follow-up questions and have these follow-up questions ready. Follow-up questions are sometimes just to rephrase the question. And when we do this rephrase follow-up questions, we should be careful not to change open-ended questions to close-ended questions. For example, if you say, after what you saw today, how do you feel? And then nobody responds. And then if you say, do you feel sad about what do you say? You from open-ended question, you gave they can only answer yes or no. But if you just rephrase, what do you think about what you saw today? Not how do you feel? What do you think? Maybe they're afraid to say how they feel. You just repeat the question, or in whatever situation. So I always say to myself to prepare 4 good questions, and then to prepare the ways how to say the same questions in a different way, so that it can be understandable, or that people can hear once again and have time to think about and to get the courage to answer. Then also what is important is to encourage young people with positive remarks. I have heard some leaders, facilitators, I would not even call them facilitators, they're looking for right answer. So they ask the question and somebody responds, says, no. Is there somebody else? You understand? If we immediately discourage people who say something, we will not get people talking. We should always encourage the students with positive remarks. What does it mean? Good answer. Just say it's good answer. We should immediately encourage the young person with it's a good answer. And then it doesn't mean that we shouldn't correct misconception, but we should not say that's bad answer. We can ask another question so that they can come maybe to better response or right response, or we can just ask people in the group, what do you think about this answer? And then others will come with maybe different opinion. And what is important from our side, that all answers are welcome, and that there is respect between people. Even when people don't agree on everything, even when people bring different perspective, even if somebody said something completely wrong, to have the way that people are encouraged to be involved, not so that the environment is safe where they can talk and discuss. It's important also to provide a sufficient time for thinking and answering, for people to gather their thoughts and to answer. Our tendency is to answer the question we ask. Sometimes we ask the questions, and then 2 seconds of silence can seem like an eternity. And after 2 seconds, we immediately jump in, or if there is a leader in the group, that leader will jump in and answer the question. And that kills this discussion. Good practice is to ask a question and then mentally count at least until 5. Give more time. It can be a little bit awkward at first, but it will allow for people to think and answer when they are ready. To give time. The main importance is to give time, and we should not be afraid of silence. Then I think it's important to have a plan, but also be ready to change the plan. So we have maybe a plan of 4 questions and rephrase question or sub questions, and we want to go from question 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and there is a logic, there is a sequence. We go from introduction to the end. We want to deal with the topic fully through these questions, But if great discussion and interest flow from our introduction question, we should not force the group to move on to the next question just for the sake of the agenda. If the good discussion is happening, if people are interested, sometimes it's better to learn the art of now focusing on that question until it's really there is interest of people dealing with this question and the discussion is productive. So although we should have a plan, we should be ready to change the plan and allow the group to go deeper into the areas in which they want to connect. But we should also from time to time redirect if it's necessary. While abandoning your plan when youth are engaged in great group discussion is important, stay keenly aware of the tone of the conversation and redirect if the group wanders into unhelpful territory. So if the discussion is going nowhere, if they're just changing the topic, if it's not relevant, and the discussion just went to the street that it's not productive, we should from time to time come back, gently jump in and pull the conversation back and reframe the conversation, to start to say where we are, to summarize, to say our topic is this and this, and we come back. There are many things how we can work with questions, but yes, I think that we should be the one also concluding the conversation, or from time to time review where we are, summarize at several moments where we came up to now, and then at the end, what I feel it's very nice and maybe very good is to ask students, to ask young people to write 1-minute paper, to use last 1-2 minutes to write down main points that they have learned, or one main point they learned, or big question that still remains. Just allowing them 1-minute paper where they write main point or big question that still remains. You don't need to discuss this. They can keep this as summaries of the day work, or they can turn their comments to you, and it can be good for you to start the next class. And then as conclusion, it's there to review the class accomplishment and preview challenges, point back to the overall goals, highlight what are some great thoughts, great responses that we got from the group, and then describe our expectation as a leader for the next section, for the next meeting, and what young people need to meet this expectation for the next time. So the first was about environment, safe environment. Second was about good questions that are of open-ended questions, high order, and the way how we are asking the questions, it's encouraging discussion, it's encouraging contribution of all people, allowing time for people to answer. It's allowing them even to direct discussion and to work in the areas where you didn't prepare discussion to go, but then to be ready to redirect, come back to the discussion and to conclude the discussion. The next tip that I would like to share is, I think it's very, very important to share real life stories, and if possible, your own stories while leading discussion. You know, our personal stories are one of the greatest tools to lead a great small group. Our experiences, even our bad decisions, past mistakes, they point out to God's grace and forgiveness. Our stories demonstrates God's ability to work in and through broken individuals. And it's our vulnerability that encourages students to be vulnerable. So if we share stories, especially stories where we are not only victors, but we are vulnerable. We are sharing something from our life, not in order to say, oh, we are all sinners, we will never change this, let's just accept us as we are, but to be vulnerable, to share something from your story that even if you had victory, that if somebody brings from your story to others, maybe you can even suffer misconceptions and bad words about you. But if we become vulnerable with young people in a group, it's much more likely that they will be ready to open and to talk about their personal lives, about their doubts, about their struggles, about anything that they want to discuss, because we are sharing our stories. Also, when we share, they share. And sharing the stories make the topic practical. You know, somebody said, and that was in context of intergenerational relationships, how to make different generations to talk and to relate to each other. And there is one very good book called Intergenerate. There is a topic about faith storytelling with all ages. And the author, Karen DeBoer, she says, we respond to opinions differently than we do to stories. Opinions tend to be black and white. Stories are multicolored. Opinions can become walls to hide behind. Stories render us vulnerable. Opinions divide people into us and them. Stories bring people together. Opinions can generate negative emotions. Stories often generate more loving emotions. Do you understand the difference between, I'm sure you understand what is the difference and what kind of environment and relationships you will have if you just talk about opinions in comparison if you involve your stories and if you encourage them to share their stories, or if you just choose some case studies, maybe even invented life situations and possible stories. These stories are much better ways to really help people to become open, to become practical, to have positive experience, positive emotions, loving emotions, where people can as a group feel that they belong, that they are together, not that they are separate. I have been involved in some small group discussions, Sabbath school or something else, where you have people divided, half, sometimes even sitting on the different parts of the room, half of them one side of opinion, half of them another, and just fighting in between. Very, very involved, a lot of discussion, you know, there is good discussion, good involvement, good participation, but not good environment, not good spirit, not good relationships, because it's about opinions that divide. But stories are more possible here to make people together. So I think it's very important to share real life stories while leading this discussion. And finally, I think it's very important to show personal care during and after the discussion. To show personal care for people, not only caring about the content, not only caring about the topic. It's important. If people want to grow, it's important also to have a topic and discussion and good content, but to show personal care for individuals. During the discussion, it can happen in different ways. One way is just to listen. You can only know where your youth are at and understand the direction of the conversation if you are giving full attention to the group. If you start planning for your next question or next announcements while young people are sharing and you don't listen them, but you think about your question, about the way where to go, you don't show attention, it's not caring. The way how we can show that we really care is just by listening and then picking up some things of what they are talking. So when we listen, we will rephrase the question. We will ask another question that will be related to what we heard, and people will feel that we have listened them, that we didn't just prepare our agenda to go through, but that we were really listening, and that their responses shape the movement of discussion. And then it's not about their opinions that we hear, it's about their stories that we hear. To be good, compassionate listener is to be ready to care for young people who express hard, uncertainty, or strong emotions related to their own journey. To notice that, to care for that, to show that we care, and to show that we love them, regardless of what, but to show really if something is emotional for them, if they're uncertain with something, if they're sharing something that hurts them, or they heard something that hurts them, that we show attention to that. Sometimes we will listen something that they will not express directly. So we can dig deeper, and we can listen for underlying beliefs, opinions, and especially feelings. For something that's underlying, why they are discussing in this way, why they are not discussing, to try to care for them, what's happening in their life, what maybe they have went through, and somehow to try during the discussion, being aware of that, and to show that in some way in discussion, but I would say even more after the discussion. So what is important part of good, effective discussion is follow up with young people. After the discussion is over, I think we should not miss opportunity to follow up with young people about what they said. You know, sometimes it's more important just to write to them or call them and say, I really liked the way how you expressed this. You had a good comment. That can invite further conversation. You can even offer, I'm ready here to talk more if you want. Tell the students, tell young people that you appreciated what they said. Small group discussion can lead to incredible one-on-one conversations. And I think this follow-up, it's very, very important aspect of showing the care, especially follow up their decisions and their challenges that they are going through. So if you heard something about their challenges, follow up through prayer, follow up through by contacting them, and in the nice way trying to show that you really care and that you are there for them, and encourage the group to do the same. If they have made good decision, every good decision, if it's a good decision about health issues, about friendship issues, about spiritual faith issues, good decisions usually should be followed up in 48 hours time. So if it's a decision even for baptism, If nobody calls a person, nobody contacts a person who maybe openly said about their decision, it's more likely that this decision will just be a word, not action. But if there is a follow-up, friendly follow-up, caring follow-up with the person that respects you and you respect that person, then there is much bigger chance that discussion will find the place in the application, that it's not only going to be a good discussion. So what we said, I think it can be also summarized through family-like experience. I think if we create safe environment, this is family environment, where like children, they're in family. They know, if they know that they are safe, that they are loved, that they are accepted regardless of everything, that they can say anything, and that it's safe. Also good questions. I have young children, and as they're soon going to be, some of them, teenagers, I know how much good questions and discussions is important for their growth. Also to share real life stories. I like to share with them my stories from my childhood, from my life. It's just sharing the way how we grow. It's not just by sharing opinions. Don't do it. Believe it in this. But sharing the stories. It's something that is happening in family. It's natural in families to share our stories. And I think that the small group, friendship groups, are family. And personal care, it's also the same. It's not only about the topic, it's about family-like experience. And I would like to finish and then just be free for questions or your comments. Just few texts from John. You remember beginning of the Gospel of John, Jesus said that all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, to become part of the family. Later, in John chapter 15, when Jesus is preparing his disciples for death and for what is for his departure after the resurrection, he's saying to them in a very family environment around the table, I no longer call you servants, because the servant does not know what the master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my father, I have made known to you. So it's about friendship and family atmosphere. And Jesus said later after the resurrection to Mary, do not call on to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I'm ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. You see, Jesus was working with his disciples who were group. He was working with them as with friends and as with brothers, as a family. And I think that this context, this environment, and everything else that comes through that is the best environment for going through discussion. And also, as Helgi said, the best environment is the best environment to talk about health and introduce young people to the health or anything else related to the real life issues. Thank you.